going on, guys? So this is going to be my Iron Fist Season 1 review, and it is just going to basically be my thoughts on the whole series. I don't have a bunch of Easter eggs or anything for you because, you know, I'm more in the DC universe of things, and my knowledge of the Marvel universe isn't as vast, so I'm not able to catch all the little things that, you know, big-time Marvel fans might be able to catch. Now, I caught a few things from, like, you know, Jessica Jones references, Daredevil references, and Luke Cage references, but other than that, I didn't catch anything else. But that's not really what I want to talk about anyways. What I want to talk about is just this show in general, because everybody has been talking about it because of its score on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's all like, it doesn't deserve a 14%, and that's what it started out at. It is currently at 17%. I actually saw it get as high as 19%, but it dropped back down to 17. So right now, on Rotten Tomatoes, it is at a 17%. And I want to say that I don't think that score is justified for this show. I don't think the show is that bad, but at the same time, I don't think the score deserves an 88% from the audience. You know, or at least critics-wise, I don't think this show deserves an 88%. I don't think the show is that good at all. I just don't think it deserves a 17%. If I was going to rate this show personally, I'd put it in like the 50-60 range, and I'm going to go ahead and discuss why I think that. I mean, I've seen way worse shows than this that are probably rated way higher. But, yeah, I don't think it deserves the rating it's got on critics. But at the same time, critics don't matter, guys. Always watch shows and judge them for yourselves. That's why you see this big old gap between the critics' ratings and the audience ratings. Now, of course, a lot of people will say that, you know, the audience rating is the only one that matters, which I think it is, because it's a lot of fans that are watching these, and that's why these shows are made, is for a lot of the fans. But I just hope that if you are one of those people trying to defend this show's ratings, I hope you're implementing that when it's going against the other stuff, like DC movies as well, that get very bad critical ratings, but get very high audience ratings when they come out at the start, too. Of course, the audience rating drops over time, because when the DC movies came out, the audience ratings were like in the 80s and 90s as well, just like Iron Fist is right now. So, yeah, anyways, I want to talk about this because I had issues with this show, and there were a few things that I liked in this show, but I want to talk about why I think this show might have got the rating it got. First thing I noticed about this show, like from episode 1 and 2, the fighting could have been way better. I don't know how you guys felt about this, but I felt like the fighting just was off compared to like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and everybody else. I felt like the fighting was way off, and maybe it was slower. Maybe who was ever like doing the cinematography and the fight choreography for this just wasn't. I felt like they were just, it's like, I don't know, like there was like certain fights, like especially in the cage match, when they're doing like arm bars and stuff like that, they're getting just unnecessary shots, like, oh, let me get this and then cut here. Like, I just felt like the editing could have been a little bit better in the fight scenes, and I don't know, it just felt like so slow to me. When, like, you see Daredevil, all of, like, Season 1 and Season 2 of Daredevil, the fighting in there was amazing, and this one is just more like, I don't know, it didn't feel as good as it could have been for this show. The second thing, the villain in this show was kind of sucky until, like, you don't really get to know who the villain is until, like, the middle part of the season, like, because at first you think it's probably, like, Ward and Joy, and then it's like, oh, maybe it's his dad, but then it's all like, oh, then the hand comes in here, and then there's another hand over here, and it's just like, who the hell's the villain here, and what's going on? Like, who do I need to hate so I can root for freaking Danny Rand over here? But, like, that's the weirdest thing. You just didn't know who the villain was in this show. So right there, I felt like the fighting was kind of slow. It wasn't the best. You didn't know who the villain was, and I think on top of everything, I don't think Danny Rand's character or the actor that played Danny Rand had much chemistry with people in this show. And I think that might be the biggest reason why I think this show got such a bad critically rated. Because, I don't know, I just don't feel like he made a connection with anybody. I felt like it was kind of just man, like there wasn't really, like I felt like there was a connection between Ward and Joy because they're brothers. Like I felt the pain going on there. She really cared for him when he was going through like his drug addict stuff. Totally got that. I felt the anger between Ward and his father. Like totally felt that there. But like anything involved with Danny just didn't feel like there was much chemistry there, and I think that was one of the biggest issues in this show. His whole relationship was kind of weird, and I didn't really like believe it at times, and of course they had their ups and downs, but I didn't really like, there wasn't any connection there. When his homeboy came back, freaking Dario or whatever his name was, I didn't really feel like they were there, like, you know, had a strong connection there between each other, which you think that would have been deeper. Like, I felt like that dude had an agenda, but Danny was just like, oh, I'm sorry, bro, and like, it was just really weird, and I don't feel like Danny Rand's character, or I should say the actor that played Danny Rand, really did a good job to capture those kind of relationships that he should have had with these people. And I don't know, I think they could have done more things to like emphasize that. Like maybe if they would have shown more flashbacks with his father and his mother, like they would have like actually shown the kid a little bit more, so we could have gotten a better idea of that. You see that at the start of the show, but it never happens again. Like they never use that child actor again, except for like, I think in episode 1 and episode 2, there's a couple of flashbacks to like small Danny Rand, but never anything else after that. And I think they could have incorporated that into the show a little bit more to kind of see like why he cared so much about his parents and all of this other stuff. This whole thing just kind of like, oh, I want revenge for my parents because I loved them and all this stuff. But like, it didn't really show why. Like, it didn't show if his dad was like a really great guy or his mom was a really great guy, like, or a really great guy, really great woman and stuff like that. So that's kind of like my thing. I didn't really know, like, why is he fighting so hard for this just because his parents died? I get it, you know, and like, I know a lot of superheroes have that tragic backstory, but I wish we would have seen more of it, you know what I mean? And I don't feel like they really captured that in this show. That could easily just be something I wanted to see, a little bit more of that relationship. It's not necessary for the show, but I do feel like one of the biggest things was that whole, I just didn't feel the chemistry there. And I felt like that kind of like made this show go kind of slow, because I felt like the scenes that should have been really dramatic weren't dramatic. And I don't know, some of the cliffhangers were kind of weak and whatnot, especially, I don't know, yeah. Usually, like, when I was watching Daredevil and shit, you're just like, oh my god, and you gotta watch the next episode. I didn't feel that in this season. Like, I was just watching it, and I was like, all right, on to the next one. I was watching this just to watch it and to make this review, because I felt like it didn't deserve, I wanted to see why it got so badly rated, and that's what kept me going in this show. That's not what should keep you going when you're watching a show. It should be like that it's so good that you have to keep watching and watching and watching, and I didn't get that. And I will say something, because I'm somebody that hasn't finished Luke Cage. I have not finished watching Luke Cage, and the one thing I've heard a lot in like the reviews of this show is like, oh, I actually enjoyed this more than Luke Cage, blah, 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 blah. Now, the one thing I will say, and I feel like, I hope I didn't say this already, but I was more interested in watching Iron Fist. Like, it caught my attention more, and I was actually able to finish the series. I haven't finished Luke Cage. I literally, spoiler alert, freaking stopped watching Luke Cage when he got shot. Like, that is the episode I'm on. I think I still have like 6 or 7 more episodes of Luke Cage to watch, and I haven't even finished that series. So, I don't know, but the one thing about Luke Cage is I cared more for those characters. I felt like they had better chemistry on that show than they did Iron Fist, and I think that's what was missing on this show. And then, of course, the storylines were all over the place in this freaking show. Like, I was just like, first this one chick is fighting in the damn cages, and then that just stops. Like, she fights twice, and then she's like, oh, I'm not gonna go back. Like, I thought they might have had an episode where she goes back to fight for the 3rd time in these cages and gets her ass kicked, and maybe that's when Danny Rand's gonna show up and save her, and it would just kind of like close out that part of the storyline. But no, she just stopped going to these cage matches, and then freaking, Ward's good, bad, freaking Joy's good, bad, and like there's just, it was just all over the place. And I know, and then you got the good hand and the bad hand, and then what hand is going to be the hand that's going to be fought in the Defenders, and then there was no Defenders set up for that, which is going to be the next series in the summer, and I'm just like, what's going on here? And how did freaking Danny's homeboy freaking meet up with Joy? Like, how did they ever meet up? How did he even know about Joy? They never met. That was just a weird way to end the series. And then Joy's bad now? Like, she was like, I'm listening. When he talks about taking out Danny Rand, like, what? I know a lot of these shows set up for the next season, but are you going to tell me I'm just going to have a whole season 2 of Danny Rand not trusting freaking Joy and Ward again and like all this stuff? And it's just, it was just really weird, and I wish it would have just like kind of solidified that story, because then now he's also going to be dealing with the other hand shit, and I don't want the same thing if they're going to do a season 2, you know what I mean? So I felt like a lot of the storyline in this show was kind of all over the place. I felt like some things were left unanswered, and I hate when shows do that. And I don't know, I think there could have been a way better way to make this story flow. I just never felt like this show picked up momentum. Like, it never had that moment where you're just like, oh shit, and then you just gotta keep watching. I never got that feeling while I was watching this show. And I think I made a tweet about it. I was all like, this is episode 12, and I just realized that there hasn't been anything memorable in this show. And that might be why this show isn't doing so good. Like, you go back and you look at every scene from Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil season 1 or 2, and they have like that one scene that you're like, oh shit, like you can't believe it. And Daredevil has plenty of those, you know, freaking any hallway scene. And I will say, I like that Netflix kept up their whole tradition of hallway scene fights. Totally happened in this in this series, which was cool, but it just wasn't like super epic. And like, I don't know, like I don't know. It's what kind of annoys me. I felt like this show had the most potential because it was going to be the most comic booky, because, you know, it was going to be the Iron Fist. There was really no way you can get around that without like introducing powers and other crazy stuff. And I feel like they tried to make this as real as possible instead of just like actually going into what the Iron Fist was all about. Like, they could have shown the dragon, they could have shown his suit, they could have shown some more training at the freaking, forget what it's called. We'll just say monastery or whatever. They could have shown more of that, and they didn't. They just kind of let you like believe whatever was being said, and I think that would have made this show a lot better is if you would have saw his training of like what he had to go through. But we just saw him like, oh, he was laying outside a cage, and then boom, he's got a freaking dragon tattoo on his chest, and like I think they needed to emphasize a lot more about what really the Iron Fist was, instead of every time he told the story about it, everybody thought he was crazy. And I thought the series started off pretty well with him in the psych ward and all of that, but I don't know. The story just felt like all over the place, you know, and I think that's what was the downfall of this show. But in the end, it's still not the worst thing I've ever seen. Like I said, I was more interested in seeing this show than I was Luke Cage. Never even finished that show, and I've seen way, way, way worse things than Iron Fist, and it's not even that bad. It is not that bad at all. I just don't think it was as good as any of the other shows, and I think it's because there was a lack of chemistry, the fighting didn't feel as good as it could be, and they totally wasted a lot of their budget on that final scene where he freaking blows everything up with his Iron Fist. That you can tell that was like, we're gonna save this one big climactic thing. I felt like they didn't really emphasize like anything about the Iron Fist, and he was gonna like the thing ends with like, oh yeah, I gotta learn to become a better Iron Fist at the end, and he was gonna go back to train and shit. Like, he should have learned to become a better Iron Fist throughout the season, and I think that would have been a better series. But he basically had one move this whole time, and like, he learned to heal, and he learned to freaking recharge his chi, which the moment he learned that, he didn't fucking do anything for like 3 episodes. So that was just like, it was just a big, like, whatever. I just turned on my PC by accident. That's all I'm gonna say about this. Like, I don't think the show is as bad as people are saying it's supposed to be, but I also don't think it's supposed to be up there with all the other Marvel shows. I think this is, for the first time in a long time, one of Marvel's failures, or like, just, it's not up there with everything else. Like, let's just admit that. Whether you love Marvel or you don't, you got to admit that it's not the best thing Marvel has put out. And they've had success for a really long time. So you know what? You can totally have a dud every once in a while. And I think that's what Iron Fist is. Hopefully, if we're lucky enough, they learn from this. And Iron Fist Season 2, if they are going to give it a Season 2, will be way better. Or Iron Fist will at least be a better badass in the Defenders. To be honest, if we're lucky, because I don't know if Luke Cage has been guaranteed a Season 2 yet, what they should just do is they should make Luke Cage and Iron Fist one series right there, because they are like best friends in the comics and shit, right? They should just make that Season 2 for both of them, instead of them both getting their own season. It should just be both of them being best buds, kicking ass in freaking New York and shit. I'd totally watch that because you get a mixture of different worlds and stuff like that. And, you know, I'd be down. I'd watch that. So, I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here. But I'm just kind of hoping that they actually dive more into the Iron Fist and actually show his badassery, because I don't feel like we really got that in this show. Anyways, for you Marvel lovers out there that know way more than I do, let me know what you thought about this show. And if you are just a casual fan or somebody that saw the whole series and maybe you liked it or maybe you hated it, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment sections down below. Guys and gals, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with all your Marvel fanboy buddies. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things nerdy and geeky on this channel. As always, I'm your host, JUICEbox. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. If I have a daily dose of juice, see you guys next time. Bye!